Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can find us on the web at caltoncutlery.com. Today I've got the camera out. I've got to snap some pictures of some knife orders and get them up on the website. And I decided just now that since I had the camera out, I'd go ahead and do a review that I've been thinking about doing for a while now. And that's on the benchmade 940 Osborne. You know, it's a fairly popular knife, I think. There's several reviews of it on YouTube. One thing a little bit different about this review is that I've carried this knife for 10 plus years, or I don't know, maybe 12, somewhere around there. I don't know when they came in production, and I don't know when I bought the first one, but I'm on my second one of them now, and both of them, let's see, one of them is on its second blade, and the second one is about ready to get another blade. And so you know, I just figured I'd give a review like that. You know, too often you see, you know, somebody, they buy a knife, they take it out of the box, they carry it around for a week, you know, open some mail, maybe cut a couple of strings, or, you know, make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with it, and then, you know, do a review on the thing. I think these 10-year plus reviews are probably a little bit less common. So I figured I'd go ahead and do that with you, share some of my thoughts. I've got, you know, a whole bunch of notes here on my phone. I've been thinking about it for the last 2 weeks or so, and every time I thought about it, I'd type something in there. So, and they're not in any particular order, so it might be a kind of a rambling video. Sorry for that, but it is what it is. Anyway, so we'll bring you a little bit closer so you can see the two knives. Okay. Now, I never did mark these two knives as to which one is which, but I want to say that this one right here is the first one. I bought this at a mall a long time ago, paid full retail for it. You know, picked it up, started carrying it, and this was before I started, you know, making and selling knives also. And I want to say this one was the first one, and when I bought it, it had a 154 cm blade in it, and you can see it's pretty scuffed up, and you know, it's been beat up and it's been around the block several times. But you know, as often as this knife has been used and everything, it still works just fine. You know, cuts really, you know, acceptably well. I won't say that that a knife like this is going to cut amazingly well. This one right here, the 154 cm blade that I had in it, I wish I could show it to you, but when you send the knife back to benchmade, and that's a really nice thing about benchmade. Okay, so you buy one of these knives, and I want to say this one I gave, you know, like I said, full retail for. No, it was this one I gave full retail for. And it was around 200 bucks at the mall. You know, everything always is more expensive at the mall. And it had the 154 cm blade in it. Well, I used it until, you know, you can tell this blade right here is dang near brand new, and that's one that's been used for 5 or 6 years. The 154 cm blade, I was always kind of disappointed in it. I never thought that it held an edge the way it should, but I loved the overall package of this knife. And so I kept carrying it and just sharpened it a little bit more often. Well, once the blade got to be about, you know, worn down about to this point, a friend of mine, he had another benchmade. It was one of their assisted opening knives. I can't remember the model number. And he had broke the tip off of it. He's a contractor, rehabs houses all the time, and he's pretty rough on his knives. He'd busted the tip, and he asked me if I could make him another blade. And I said, well, you know, sure, probably could. Well, as soon as I took the blade out, I found that it was an assisted opening, or realized how they did the assisted opening, and there's a spot in the tang that's milled out to accept a coil spring, and at the time I didn't have a way to mill that slot in there. So I called up Benchmade, and they said, oh yeah, just send it back to us with a check for $25 and we'll put a new blade in it. And I thought, well, heck, if I'm going to be doing that, why not go ahead and send mine in also? I asked him if I could keep the old 154 CM blade, just because that blade and I had been through an awful lot together, you know, put it in my curio cabinet or whatever, and they said I couldn't do that, that they would keep the old blade, but I'd get the new one for 25 bucks. Well, I figured 6 years worth of use and then send the knife in and get the blade replaced for $25? Heck yeah. So I had retired this one because the blade had just been worn down quite a bit, and I had reground it several times, and it was, you know, it was just time for a new blade. So I sent this one back in, and they returned it with the upgraded version, which is in S30V. I hope that's going to focus in so that y'all can see it somehow or other. So anyway, so for 25 bucks they sent me the knife back with new washers and a new S30V blade. So, you know, that's a heck of a deal. So between these two knives, for 10, 12, however many years I've had them, you know, I paid like 200 bucks for this one. I think this one I got on eBay for like $140, something like that. And this is the original blade on it with the S30V. And the S30V blade, it cuts pretty good. You know, I mean, it cuts quite a bit better than the old 154 CM blade. I've never had a problem with it rusting. It's at a good hardness for a single hardness blade. What I mean by that is, you know, like my normal everyday carry neck knife, you know, it's got different hardnesses throughout the blade. So, you know, about this much right here is hardened steel from, you know, there to the edge. And then from there back, I left it quite a bit softer. And that lets you run the edge at the maximum working hardness of the steel so that you get better edge retention. But then the softer spine and tang, you know, gives the blade an awful lot more flexible strength and makes for a tougher knife. Well, I can't imagine most factories are going to put that kind of heat treat into a production blade. I mean, it would, you know, the changes to their manufacturing process would be awful expensive, and, you know, I think it'd add quite a bit of money to the finished product. So anyway, so this blade right here is the same hardness throughout. I wouldn't even guess as to what it is, but it's pretty tough. I mean, I've never broken the tip off of these blades, never bent them to the point where they retained a set or anything like that. I mean, they really nailed the heat treat on this blade, I think, as far as that goes. So you get, you know, good edge retention, easy sharpening, and an acceptable level of strength and toughness. So anyway, so enough about the blades. What I really like about this knife, and the reason I've carried it for so long, is it is just an amazing package. I mean, it's slim, it's light. I think they say it weighs like 2.5 ounces. Let's get the scale out. It fits in the pocket really nice. It doesn't take your pocket up with as much, you know, an awful lot larger knife would take up more of your pocket and you couldn't get in to get your keys or anything. So the new one that I have here is 2.7 ounces, and the old one is 2.85 ounces. That's on a digital scale there. The weight difference right there is probably due to the fact that, like I said, I've worn them down considerably. If we measure this one, we'll measure it right across where that false edge grind kind of stops. I measured this a little bit ago and I got 815 thousandths, and then the worn one was 712 thousandths. So I've worn, you know, 1/10 of an inch off of that blade, about there, you know, in the last 5 or 6 years, which is approximately the thickness of the spine also. So anyway, back to the ease of carry and everything. It's real nice and light, you know, fits in the pocket easy. One thing that that I don't see or don't hear an awful lot of people noticing, I mean, besides it being ambidextrous, you can move the clips from one side to the other. But like with the assisted opening knives, I've played with a couple of those and carried them here and there. You know, I never really did care for them all that much. First of all, you've got that spring that's putting tension on the blade. So if this ever open, you know, I always felt that, you know, possibly it might try to open up in my pocket, which, you know, I've never heard of that happening, but, you know, it's one of those things that I never really liked. But these knives, as smooth as they are, with the axis lock and the twin washers in here, I mean, they are insanely smooth. So if you're in a hurry, you know, and there's nobody around or anything, and you want to open it up fast, it just pops right out. But one nice thing about these is that you don't have to open it up that fast all the time. You know, a lot of times you're in a situation where you know, you want to open up the knife kind of slow. You know, when my boy was in grade school, you know, I didn't spend an awful lot of time volunteering at his school in the PTO. And, you know, volunteering in the classes, going on field trips, stuff like that. And, you know, in a case like that, if you need to, you know, use your knife for something, you don't want to be, you know, whipping this knife out, popping the thing out, and, you know, scaring everybody. You know, most times you just kind of want to grab your pocket knife, turn around in the corner, you know, and then, you know, open it up nice and slow. You know, cut whatever it is that you need to cut, and then close it, stick it back in your pocket, and, you know, it's not as intimidating. Or like a lot of times, you know, I'm a big coffee freak, so, you know, I go to Mini Mart or something, or the Loaf and Jug, and get one of those, you know, those cappuccinos that are like coffee but mostly sugar. Oh God, I love those. But, you know, the little vent hole they put in the top of the lid, you know, it's too small. You can't get, you know, it doesn't let air into the cup fast enough while I'm drinking it anyway. So, you know, a lot of times I buy the cup of coffee, put the lid on it, and then grab my pocket knife, and then, you know, just open it up that much, punch a hole in there, close it, put it back in my pocket, and away you go. These knives are, with that, they're a very friendly sort of knife, I guess. They're not very intimidating, with the nice green color, and, you know, well, this one used to be kind of purple like that on the back. You know, they're not like a tactical or a scary looking knife. They're a very friendly looking utility knife in my mind. The pocket clip. Now these pocket clips, as they come from the factory, they've got very sharp corners on them. And these, I've carried them for so long, I don't even know what I rounded the insides off with, but it wasn't too long after I started carrying them that they started, the corner of your pocket where you carry these in your jeans, those sharp corners will start cutting through the jean material right there. So I just took these screws out, took the clip off, and then rounded off the inside of the pocket clip with, I don't even remember what it was, whether it was a file or a piece of sandpaper wrapped around a stick, you know, whatever it was, but smoothed that out, and then that all went away. The pocket clips are really good. These are the original ones. I've never seen them, be sprung out. They've maintained a good tension to where, you know, they hold the knife securely in your pocket, but yet, the knife comes out really easy when you want it to. The handle material is aluminum, and you can see it takes a beating really well. You know, on the corners of the contouring that's on there. You know, you can see this one. I should probably grab a piece of sandpaper and smooth out some of those dings and everything. The end of it works really good for a light hammer. You know, if you got a nail in a piece of drywall or something, or you're hanging a picture and you've already got the picture all leveled up and everything, and you just need to tap a nail in for it. As long as you're not going into the stud, boy, it works, you know, really good to just kind of tap that in. You can see both of them have been used pretty hard like that. The axis lock, I've never had. This is one lock that I've never had fail. I've had liner locks fail, lockbacks fail. But this axis lock is amazing. Not only does it contribute to that smoothness, you know, as smooth as the blade opens up and closes, but I've never had it fail. And these knives have been through, they've been through some rough times. The blade shape, the real nice narrow blade shape, even when they're new, makes peeling an apple real easy. Opening mail, any kind of turning cut that you might do, the narrower blade goes into that cut real nice. A lot of blades are too wide and they'll track straighter, like say you're cutting a block of cheese or something, but when you go to do a turning cut, you know, that wide blade really makes an awful lot of drag. And these ones right here, you know, are narrow enough that they're very nimble in cuts. The tips are in a good position for opening mail, for cutting coupons out of the newspaper. You know, they work really good for that. They're just in a really good spot for normal everyday use. This little, I guess, a reverse tanto style of tip like that, those work pretty good. Occasionally you find yourself in a spot where you need a screwdriver on a light screw, not anything that's seized up or anything. And that tip actually works pretty good for getting into there. Yeah, it's just an amazing package, and the fact that you can purchase one, use it for however long, take the thumb stud out, put it on a belt grinder, regrind it, you know, thin it back out, put the thumb stud back in, use it for another 3 or 4 years, and then, you know, after a couple of times of that, and you've just, you know, worn an awful lot of the blade away, for 25 bucks you send it back in and they fit a new blade to it. Let's go through my list here. Let's see, we got slim and light, the fact that it's a friendly looking knife, the fact that you can open it fast or, you know, nice and slow, depends on when you want to do that. Tip is a screwdriver tip. Let's see, the fact that it's so smooth. Muscle memory. Muscle memory is pretty important to me, and one thing that isn't talked about very much in knife reviews, but you know, I've carried these knives now for a long time. This knife is always in the same spot in my pocket, and you know, I don't even think about it anymore. When I need a knife, you know, and I need this particular knife, I generally speaking carry one of those, you know, some sort of a tester. You know, since I make knives, I'm constantly testing different you know, heat treats and, you know, my steels, different geometries, stuff like that. And then the good old Victorinox Tinker. So when I'm after this knife right here, since I've carried it for so long, my muscles and my hands know exactly what to do to pull that knife out, get it in service, make my cut, do whatever work I need to get done, and then put it back in my pocket. And you know, there's never any fumbling around or anything like that, except for sometimes when it's really cold. Hammer with the butt, the heat treat, the axis lock, the pivots, sometimes they will work loose. I set these up to where they have probably a little bit more play than what most guys might do. There's, oh, that tip's probably moving maybe 5 to 8 thousandths in either direction off of you know, straight. And the reason I do that is because I'd much rather, I mean, this isn't a hard use knife. I'm not going to be prying with it very much. But, you know, I need it to open up when I need it to open up, and so I'd like it to be just a little bit on the loose side. So you adjust that tension with the torque screw there, put a drop of Loctite on it, blue Loctite, so that you can take it apart and clean it if you ever have to. Put it back together, let it set, and you're done. I generally use this rim oil here. to, you know, if I get into a spot where I'm really, you know, end up the day really dirty, like I've been digging a big hole or something like that, and, you know, that knife is just coated with mud inside and out, you know, then a lot of times I'll take it out, spray it. We'll just put a little drop in there now that I'm thinking about it. And then one in the lock. Wash it off in the sink, sharpen it up, and, you know, it'll be good to go for the next time. Let's see. $25 for the new blade. If you are, I mean, I know that the retail value on this at $200 is an awful lot. eBay, or if you can find some on sale or something like that, at $140 is an awful lot less. But it's still quite a bit of money to be spending on a pocket knife, especially when you can go, you know, pick one up for $20 at Walmart. But if you stop and think about it for a little bit, these two knives right here, one at $200 and one at $140, so $340 total. I've carried them one or the other every single day for the last 10 to 12 years or however long it's been. So I like to look at that as like a dollar cost averaging type thing. So like if you buy your wife a set of earrings, or, you know, her wedding ring, you know, it might seem awful expensive up front, but if she wears them every single day, well, then it gets an awful lot cheaper by the day, just a way to kind of, you know, make the cost a little bit easier in your mind. Okay, I got two more here. I showed you how easy the blade opens up and closes. The nice thing about this is that it does that in any position. So while I'm standing here in a nice clean shop, you know, where it's fairly warm, it opens up and closes. Well, it also opens and closes really nice if you're hanging upside down, or if you're up underneath a car, you know, laying on your back, and you're pull the knife up and kind of move it around, up around, you know, wherever you got to get your cut done. You know, it opens up really good in all positions. The only time that it doesn't open very fast is underwater. When you need the knife underwater, instead of just doing the flick, you'll actually have to take the thumb stud and take it all the way open. But I think that's probably true with any knife. It's just this is the only one I've carried long enough to notice that. Cleanup and everything. This one has got plenty of space around the blade in between the scales, so it does clean up really easy. And of course, now I try it with a Q-tip and it doesn't work. But a folded up paper towel, you know, stick it in there, comes right out. This one's fairly dirty right now, so we'll just fold up a paper towel, stick it in there, and we'll get to see how much pocket lint and junk that it's picked up since the last time I cleaned it. All that, I still haven't gotten it all yet, and it still works just fine. I mean, that amount of dirt hasn't affected how it opens or closes or locks or anything. Yeah, there's still more in there. I'll get it later. But anyways, so there you go. These benchmade 940s, they're a really good, light, friendly utility knife. I've carried these ones for a long time, and, you know, I've never experienced anything catastrophic with them. They've always performed just about like I expected them to. And I use my knives hard. I mean, like I said, a lot of times you'll see a review where somebody says, okay, well, this knife does this, this, and this, and the blade still looks like that. Well, how hard can you have used that knife if it's, you know, still got the factory edge on it? That's what the blade looks like after about 6 years or so worth of use. You know, I've never babied these at all, and they still work great. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you decide to pick one of these knives up, I hope you enjoy it, and it gives you as much service as what mine have given me. I guess that's it, and we'll see you next time.